Imagine saving for years to buy your dream watch. You finally have the money. You walk into one of the most prestigious watch boutiques in the world. You already know exactly what you want. A Rolex Submariner. The salesperson greets you with a smile. They invite you to try on the display model. You admire every detail. The weight, the craftsmanship, the unmistakable crown on the dial. Then you say 4 simple words, "I'd like to buy it." Instead of reaching for the display case, the salesperson pauses. "I'm sorry," they say. "This model isn't available." You ask when another one will arrive. They don't know. You ask if you can reserve one. Maybe. You ask how long the wait will be. 2 years, 3 years, possibly longer. You leave the store exactly as you entered, without a watch, but with one question echoing in your mind. Why? This isn't happening because Rolex can't make enough watches. The company produces more than 1 million timepieces every year. Yet around the world, customers with money ready to spend are told the same thing. Not today. So where are all the watches? Is Rolex simply overwhelmed by demand? Or has the world's most recognizable luxury watch brand turned scarcity into its most valuable product? Today, we're going behind the glass display case to uncover one of the most fascinating business strategies in modern luxury. Most businesses share one simple goal: sell as much as possible. When demand increases, they increase production. They open more stores. They launch promotions. They advertise more aggressively. Rolex plays an entirely different game. Walk into an authorized Rolex retailer almost anywhere in the world, and you'll notice something unusual. The showcases appear full.
Beautiful watches sit on a perfectly positioned lights.
Everything looks ready for sale. But many of those watches are there for display only. You can look, you can touch. Sometimes, you can even try them on. But buying one, that's a completely different story. For some of Rolex's most sought-after models, buying isn't simply a transaction. It begins with an expression of interest. Depending on the model, demand in your region, and dealer allocation, that interest can turn into a weight measured in years rather than weeks. And even then, there are no guarantees. For many first-time buyers, the experience feels almost backwards. You're not deciding whether Rolex is worthy of your money. It feels as though Rolex is deciding whether you're worthy of owning one of its watches. Whether intentional or not, that perception changes everything. The purchase becomes more than a purchase. It becomes an achievement. This seems completely irrational. If millions of people want your product, why not simply make more? After all, every additional watch sold means more revenue, more profit, more growth. That's exactly how most companies think. But luxury brands operate under a different set of rules. Because in luxury, value isn't created only by craftsmanship. It's created by perception. The harder something is to obtain, the more desirable it often becomes. Economists call it scarcity. Psychologists call it exclusivity. Luxury brands call it positioning. Imagine 2 stores. One has hundreds of identical products stacked from floor to ceiling. Large signs scream, 50% off. The other has only a handful of carefully displayed pieces.
No discounts, no urgency, no negotiation.
Which one feels more valuable? Luxury has never been about making everyone feel included. It's about making ownership feel rare. And few companies understand that better than Rolex. Over decades, Rolex has transformed from a watchmaker into something much larger. Its watches don't simply tell time. They communicate success, achievement, patience, status. Whether fair or not, many people don't buy a Rolex because they need to know the time. They buy one because of what it represents. And protecting that image has become one of the company's greatest competitive advantages. Because once a luxury product becomes ordinary, it stops feeling luxurious. But here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Most global companies answer to shareholders. Every quarter, they face pressure to sell more, grow faster, and increase profits. Rolex doesn't operate quite the same way, and understanding why requires us to look beyond the watches to the organization behind the crown. To understand why Rolex can afford to say no to paying customers, you first have to understand something almost no one talks about. Rolex doesn't operate like a normal company. Unlike Apple, unlike Nike, unlike LVMH, Rolex isn't listed on any stock exchange. You can't buy shares. There are no quarterly earnings calls. No Wall Street analysts asking uncomfortable questions. No activist investors demanding faster growth. In fact, Rolex answers to almost no one outside its own organization. And that changes everything. The company is controlled by the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation, named after Rolex founder Hans Wilsdorf. When Wilsdorf died in 1960, he left ownership of Rolex to the foundation. Its mission was to preserve the company and support charitable causes, rather than maximize short-term returns for public investors. The result is one of the most unusual ownership structures in global business. Unlike publicly traded corporations, Rolex isn't required to publish the same level of financial detail expected of listed companies. That privacy has helped the company remain one of the most secretive luxury brands in the world. When Hans Wilsdorf founded his business in London in 1905, the wristwatch wasn't considered a serious instrument. Most men carried pocket watches. Many believed wristwatches were too fragile, too inaccurate, and little more than fashionable accessories. Wilsdorf saw something different. He believed the future belonged on the wrist. But building a great watch wasn't enough. People needed to trust it. So Rolex did something revolutionary. Instead of telling people their watches were reliable, they proved it. In 1927, Mercedes Gleitze wore a Rolex Oyster while swimming across the English Channel. After hours in cold water, the watch was still running. It became one of the earliest and most successful examples of modern product marketing. Later came explorers, deep-sea divers, pilots, scientists, mountaineers. Each achievement reinforced the same message. A Rolex wasn't simply expensive. It was dependable. Over time, dependability evolved into prestige. Prestige evolved into status. And status became one of the company's most valuable assets. Rolex didn't reinvent itself every few years. It evolved slowly, patiently, almost obsessively. While many brands chased trends, Rolex refined the same designs decade after decade. A Submariner from years ago is instantly recognizable today. That consistency creates something incredibly powerful. Timelessness. Owners never feel their watch has gone out of style. And buyers know today's purchase won't look outdated next year. It's a strategy that protects not only the product, but the value of owning one. This philosophy extends beyond design. Every Rolex passes through hundreds of precision steps before reaching a customer. Movements are tested. Cases are pressure tested for water resistance. Components are inspected again and again. The company has built a reputation for producing watches that can last for generations when properly maintained. Quality isn't just part of the brand. It is the brand. And when your reputation depends on perfection, rushing production becomes risky. Rolex produces around 1 million watches each year. By almost any standard, that's a remarkable number. Yet demand for many of its most popular models continues to exceed supply. Could Rolex simply build more factories? Hire more watchmakers? Produce millions of additional watches? Technically, perhaps. But doing so would force the company to answer a difficult question. If everyone could own a Rolex tomorrow, would it still feel like a Rolex? That question sits at the heart of the company's strategy. Not because scarcity alone creates luxury, but because scarcity changes human behavior. The moment something becomes difficult to obtain, people begin to value it differently. And that's exactly where our story goes next. Because the real genius of Rolex isn't found inside the watch. It's found inside the human mind. There's an old saying in marketing: people don't always want what's best. They want what other people can't have. It's a simple idea, but it has shaped some of the most successful luxury brands in history. And Rolex understands it better than almost anyone. Imagine two watches. They're identical. Same materials, same movement, same craftsmanship. The only difference, one is available in every store. The other requires a 2-year wait. Which one suddenly feels more valuable? Most people would choose the second. Not because it's objectively better, but because our brains instinctively assign greater value to things that appear scarce. Psychologists call this the scarcity principle. When access becomes limited, desire often increases. Rolex didn't invent this principle. Luxury fashion uses it. Limited edition sneakers use it. High-performance sports cars use it. Even the art world depends on it. Scarcity transforms a purchase into an achievement. Owning the product becomes a signal that you had the patience, the opportunity, or the relationships to obtain something others couldn't. That's where luxury stops being about the object and starts becoming about identity. A Rolex tells more than time. Whether we like it or not, it communicates success. For some, it's a reward after years of hard work. For others, it's a symbol of achievement, and symbols become more powerful when they remain difficult to obtain. If everyone owned one, the signal would disappear. That perception has fueled an enormous secondary market. Some of Rolex's most sought-after models have, at various times, sold above their original retail price on the resale market. Not because the watches suddenly became more accurate, not because they started telling better time, but because availability itself became valuable. For many buyers, the waiting list became part of the product. The longer the wait, the greater the anticipation, and anticipation has a remarkable effect on human psychology. The reward often feels more satisfying because it wasn't immediate. Think back to your own life. Was your proudest achievement the one that came easily, or the one you had to work for? Human beings attach emotional value to effort. The harder something is to earn, the more meaningful it often becomes. Rolex has spent decades building a buying experience that many customers describe exactly that way, not as shopping, but as earning. Then there's another layer. Rolex rarely relies on loud marketing. Instead, it places itself beside excellence. Grand Slam tennis, elite golf, sailing, endurance racing.
Exploration, scientific achievement. The message is subtle. Rolex doesn't say, "You'll become successful if you buy our watch." It quietly suggests something else. Successful people choose Rolex, whether consciously or unconsciously. That association becomes incredibly powerful because people don't just buy products, they buy the stories attached to them. Over time, customers themselves become marketers. Collectors share photographs. Enthusiasts discuss waiting lists. Resellers report record prices. Every conversation reinforces the same belief. Rolex must be special because everyone wants one. That's the brilliance of reputation. Once it reaches critical mass, it begins to grow on its own. But here's the question that matters. Is Rolex simply lucky, or has every piece of this puzzle, the history, the engineering, the consistency, the scarcity, and the reputation, been carefully assembled over generations? Because if that's true, then Rolex isn't just selling watches. It's selling something much more valuable: belief. By now, the answer to our original question should feel a little clearer. Rolex doesn't refuse to sell you a watch because it dislikes customers. It refuses to compete like everyone else. While most businesses ask, "How can we sell more?" Rolex asks something very different. How can we become more valuable? And those are two completely different games. For decades, Rolex has focused on protecting something many businesses unknowingly destroy: its reputation. Every decision, every product launch, every design update, every partnership, every improvement appears to serve one purpose: strengthen the brand, not chase short-term attention. Look closely at where Rolex appears. Not everywhere, only in places already associated with excellence. Elite athletes, championship tournaments, historic expeditions, world-class achievements. The company rarely interrupts her day asking for attention. Instead, it quietly places itself beside people and events that have already earned respect. Over time, that respect transfers to the brand itself. Then, something remarkable happens. A Rolex stops being just another purchase. It becomes an heirloom, a milestone, a graduation gift, a retirement gift, a symbol passed from one generation to the next. That's something advertising alone can never create. It takes decades. Think about how rare that is. Technology companies reinvent themselves every few years. Fashion trends disappear every season. Social media changes every month. Yet, a Rolex designed decades ago still looks unmistakably like a Rolex today. Consistency has become one of its greatest competitive advantages because trust is built through repetition, not constant reinvention. In 2023, Rolex made one of the biggest moves in its modern history. It acquired Boucherer, one of the world's largest luxury watch retailers. For decades, Rolex relied on independent, authorized dealers to reach customers. Now, it also has direct influence over one of the industry's most established retail networks. The acquisition surprised much of the luxury watch world, not because Rolex was chasing rapid expansion, but because it strengthened the company's ability to shape the customer experience from showroom to service. Luxury isn't just about making an exceptional product. It's about controlling every moment surrounding that product. The showroom, the presentation, the service, the ownership experience. Every detail reinforces the same message. This isn't ordinary, and perhaps that's the biggest lesson Rolex teaches. Luxury isn't created by expensive materials alone. It's created by consistency, patience, trust, and the discipline to protect your reputation, even when faster profits are tempting. Which brings us back to that empty display case, the one we saw at the beginning. At first, it looked like a missed sale. Now, it looks like something else. A carefully protected symbol, not of scarcity alone, but of value. When we began this story, that empty display case looked like failure, a company turning away customers, money left on the table, lost sales. But now, it looks like something entirely different. It isn't empty because Rolex has nothing to sell. It's empty because the company understands something many businesses never do. Sometimes, the value of a product isn't determined by how many people can buy it. It's determined by how many people can't. For more than a century, Rolex has done something remarkably difficult. It has resisted the temptation to chase every trend. It didn't redesign its identity every few years. It didn't flood the market with endless variations. It didn't compete through discounts. Instead, it invested in something far more valuable: trust, consistency, craftsmanship, and time. The same ingredient measured by every Rolex became the foundation of the company itself.
Over generations, those decisions compounded. One customer became two, two became 10, 10 became millions, not because Rolex convinced the world overnight, but because it protected its reputation year after year. That's how enduring brands are built, not through shortcuts, through consistency. And perhaps that's the lesson hiding behind the crown. Whether you're building watches, a business, a YouTube channel, or a personal brand, your greatest asset isn't attention, it's trust. Attention can be bought. Trust has to be earned. And once it's earned, it becomes incredibly difficult to replace. The next time you walk past a Rolex boutique and notice another empty display case, remember, you're not looking at a shortage of watches. You're looking at more than a century of careful decisions. Decisions that transformed a simple timepiece into one of the most recognized symbols of success in the world. Not because Rolex mastered watchmaking alone, but because it mastered something far more powerful: human perception. Rolex never really sold the watch. The watch was simply the receipt. What people were buying was the story. If you enjoyed this documentary, subscribe to Capital Theory. Every week, we break down the strategies, psychology, and hidden decisions behind the world's most influential companies. Because every iconic brand has a story, and every story has a lesson. We'll see you in the next one.